Mic's working.
Good evening. Welcome to the Cottonwood Heights Community Development and Renewal Agency meeting for December 13th, 2022. The first item of business is to actually open a public hearing on a proposed adoption of a project area plan for the town center at 2300 East and Fort Union Community Reinvestment Area. At this time, I'd like to do we have anybody that wants to comment?
We have a staff report on that just to
Okay.
educate first,
Great.
and Mike is going to present that if that's okay.
Great. Yep. Coming up, Mike.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to provide an overview, this is a proposal to create a community reinvestment area called the Town Center at 2300 East Fort Union project area. The general map is on screen here. It encompasses roughly 70 acres of property in the direct vicinity of Fort Union Boulevard and 2300 East. The plan was initiated, the preparation of the plan was initiated by resolution by the agency back in 2019. Progress obviously halted on that when COVID hit. The priorities were diverted elsewhere, and we're coming back to it now. I do want to clarify the plan's a kind of a proactive economic development tool that allows the city to have a say in how future developments are shaped and designed in that area. This is an area of the city that's long been targeted in community master plans as a potential town center, as an area that's got really good potential for redevelopment into something that fits kind of the city's long range vision. In reading the plan, there is no budget attached to it, and that's important to note because generally community reinvestment areas have participation by other taxing entities to initiate tax increment financing. That requires a cost benefit analysis and a proposed budget, and then information on the participation by all the other property taxing entities that would be affected. That's not included here, so there is no proposal initially to have tax increment financing participation. The intention would be to come back and amend the plan with that information later after we've had a chance to negotiate with those other taxing entities. It also states in this plan that the city is currently under contract to purchase the Hillside Plaza property, which is accurate, but the adoption of this plan does not commit the city to doing that. What it does do, though, is open up a method of financing through redevelopment agency bonds to finance the purchase of that should the city decide to move forward with that property purchase. Either way, this is just implementation of the resolution that was established by the council or the agency back in 2019. Any questions?
Maybe one, Mike. Councilmember Bracken, did you have a question?
No, I was to say, this doesn't actually affect any of the existing properties, their tax rates or anything like that. This just creates an area that as we move forward, at some point we could initiate the process after we had a budget and whatnot to start collecting some tax increment for possible redevelopment use.
Yes, and even collection of tax increment doesn't affect property tax rate, in relation to the rest of the city. It's not a tax increase, just to clarify that. But yeah, this doesn't affect any of the properties as they are today in terms of tax revenue or where the property taxes are being diverted. This is just an area plan.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Appreciate it, Mike. Council, any questions, comments before we open it up to the public? But this time I'll open up the public comment period. I do not currently have any comment cards. Is there anybody online? It doesn't look like it, Tim. If you would like to, do we have somebody?
Am I allowed to come up?
Would you fill out a card? Then we'll have your information and know how to contact you if we need to.
I may note the area for someone who may just be listening is Hillside Plaza across the road on 23rd East, where the old Blockbuster was, down to those apartments west of 23rd East, the down just east of the library, down including the, I don't know what currently is Praxair or the old Whitmore auction site. And then on the southwest corner includes the Big O and a couple of those commercial areas. I don't see that it, and it goes down Fort Union Boulevard on Fort Union Boulevard facing across. So those areas would be within our A,
Correct,
the development area.
correct. Thank you, Councilmember Bracken.
It's just, for me, it was hard to see the red line.
And I think you might have, excuse me, I think you might have answered some of my question, but as I'm looking at the map and I see the red lines, are those areas affected by this master plan?
Yes, those would be the areas in the agency and in the development area.
And what does that mean in the agency? Would those then be consumed and
No, so the defined area only means that if there is any redevelopment within that area, and you know, those are still held privately by private owners. So, but if there was any redevelopment, they would be eligible for tax increment financing. If I said that correctly, Tim.
Yeah, once we get the budget and taxing entities to agree to that, a big part of being in this area is it's a designated redevelopment area where the city and the redevelopment agency is hoping to create reinvestment in this area, private reinvestment, basically, with the potential of some public amenities as well. But that's the key, is it's established to promote redevelopment and opportunity and reinvestment in the area ultimately.
great, thank you.
Thank you, Dale Smith, correct?
Correct.
Is there anybody else that wishes to comment? Without seeing anybody else, I will officially close the public comment period on the proposed adoption of a project area plan for the town center at 2300 East and Fort Union Community Reinvestment Area. Next, we have invited Chris McCandless here to come to us and give us an update on the Canyons Center development. So come on up, Chris.
Good evening, everybody. Do you want my name and address?
We
Okay.
know who you are.
I've got a presentation, take about an hour. Is that okay?
Chief has,
You guys know me better than that. Canyon Center, we're working on it as diligently as we possibly can. Of course, you know that the marketplace in general is still struggling. We don't care. We're going to still fight on. As we'd talked about it the last time I met you guys, we had the podium under contract to sell to a entity, which we did actually sell it. The reason we did that was to pay off the debt, and we still own a portion of that podium, but it brings Kevin Gates and another couple of partners into the picture, allows us to make it so we can withstand the storm if necessary. So we don't have to get stupid about trying to build something in a marketplace that doesn't necessarily mean that would be good for the community nor for us. So we're pretty excited about that. We have another closing. I still got a couple of $1 million. I talk about that as if it's just, you know, spare change in my back pocket. It's a lot of money, but we'll pay that off in January when we finish another sale. So we're pouring our resources into Canyon Center. Seemed like that's all I've been doing. An update on the capital that was invested. Last time I was here, somebody asked. So here's what we got into the project today. And these are round numbers. So don't hold me hostage if I'm off by a few 100,000 or million in this case. The land at about 6.5 million is what we paid for it a long, long time ago. Our infrastructure improvements are $3 million. And that includes the 750,000 for the Rocky Mountain Power backbone. So the power system in that area was quite a mess. As you guys know, there was a bunch of power lines that went over Wasatch Boulevard that we detested. And so part of our plan was to get those down. Those are gone, of course, at this point. Parking garage, we can estimate without any soft costs a $14,800,000 construction. That puts our hard costs at 28,627. Replacement value for that today is about $38,000 a stall. So I think given the nature of what's happening in both Big and Little Cottonwood Canyon, parking is going to become even more of an issue in the future. We think that's a really good asset. Our attorney and entitlement costs were about $850,000. Most of that was legal fees. Shane knows the story there. It was fun. The hotel, which I know cost more than this, but I took, for the most part, these valuations from the Salt Lake County assessors, assessed value at $25 million. 8 settlers at $6.5 million is what it's assessed at. 8 settlers is such a great place. I think it is. I eat there all the time. I'm trying not to be biased. I don't, you know, when he opened his doors, I told him I didn't drink. And he said, well, that's okay. We'll get you something. So he got me some root beer. But what he did get me was a bottle of his first bottles of alcohol that he produced, vodka, about 180 proof. And then he signed it. It's still on my shelf. And I figure it's backup plan for gas, right? I run out of gas, I'll just put that in my car and still make it somewhere. But it's a really cool bottle. And I'm really excited that they've done so well. Units 2D and 2E, your friends that own Rooted Restaurant, it's going to move into one of those units as a mixed use type office space. They've got their internal tenant improvement stuff being built in Canada. I don't know why. I asked him if that pencils, and he says, well, we got a really good quality product. We'll see how that turns out, but his
Did I just hear you say you stole one of the few commercial properties in District 2 and you're moving it?
just lost me. That went right over my head.
Rooted is moving up.
No, they're staying there. But
I'm
they're
all right.
opening up kind of a little coffee soft place. They've got an exercise facility in there, and then their corporate headquarters will be in that office as well. So that's pretty cool. Some good news. Kevin Gates is moving his corporate offices into the building next to it. So the bottom level, I bet I've had 20 LOIs from people who want us to give them everything and put up nothing. So we're being a little picky on that, but Kevin will take the upstairs floor. And that'll be his offices here locally. Right now, he offices out of Lakai. And his Utah office. He has more than one, obviously. Those two units are about 4 million. Residential homes, using the average assessed value of those 17 houses that David Weekly Homes built, assessed value. I would argue they'll sell for more than what they are assessed for, but that's 13,600,000. The apartment property, the actual sales price, which I would love to get back, has a value today, and that's a little more than what I sold it for, at $4 million. I talk to him about every other week. Mark, when are you going to start building your apartment complexes? And his big challenge that he told me the other day was the costs of everything have gone up so much. His loan with HUD's approved, but he's got 7 figures he's got to figure out where to get it from to make up for the increases in the cost. Sale a restaurant, that's about a $4 million investment. The office podium itself, not the building, has a value at $7.5 million. That's appraised value, and very, very close to an agreement that we've come to with a group out of Minnesota. The future investments that'll be, there's a couple of pieces left, and they're the ones that seemingly are the toughest. The office residential building, or potentially a medical office building, will be about $22 million. When we originally did this number, it was about 16. And so rents are going down, vacancies are going up, costs are going up. This is a great recipe for fun. The apartments, based on what Mark tells me, be about 31.5 million. Community park, the land itself that I'm donating to the city is about $1 million. So money that has been spent to date, or the values associated with those facilities is $89,750,000 in the project. That based upon just the property tax at 1.2% creates about $1,077,000 a year in taxes that go to the taxing entities associated with, most of it goes to the school district, right? But in addition to that, of course, there's sales tax, TR tax, franchise tax. All of those taxes are added into it. And so the benefit associated with this project is pretty significant. Now, when we finish out the apartments and the community park and the office residential building or the medical building, that adds another 22, 31.5 and $1 million in assessed value. It takes the value of this project up to $144 million and change. That's what I expect to see happen. Too stupid to quit is kind of our motto, I guess, because we're not going to quit. We'll just keep working till we get it done. With that said, a group out of Minnesota came to us a few weeks ago and submitted an LOI. We're working on, the last thing we talked about was the residential condominium / office building. These guys think there's a marketplace for a specifically high-end medical office building. That is what they do. That's all they do. They're a REIT out of Minnesota. And we thought that based upon their qualifications and their abilities, that we should give them a shot and just try to maintain the original integrity of the project itself, make it an office building. I don't think, quite frankly, the regular office will work there because rents versus vacancy versus costs are in a negative position. So we're going to give this a try. And at the same time, we're still moving forward with the condominium office concept because, I've been working on this for a while, getting worn out. But it'll be such a great place when it gets done. And I think that's about it. Unless you have some questions. That's my update for the day.
Thank you, Chris. Questions from the council?
Yeah, I want to make sure I followed. That was a great run through. I appreciate that overview. So your concept for the condominium and office space in the over the parking garage,
Right.
that is also the space that the Minnesota developer thinks instead could
Correct.
be a large medical complex. Is that what you're indicating?
Yep. Yeah. So
Kind of like the plastic surgeons and all the people.
they're keeping their cards a little close to their vest. I actually invited them here tonight and they said, no, let's do that another time. I said, okay, fine. Because they're here for the next 10 days meeting with people. And I thought it'd be fun to introduce you, but they thought it was a little premature. So I respect their wishes, but you're right. It's a high-end medical use office building. It's not surgical. We did have a plastic surgeon out of California come and give us an offer. That would have been cool, because they bring really cool people and we could put cameras in the garage and watch them leave and see what they look like before and after thing, And I don't think they'd appreciate that either, but we've had so many people that have approached us. We're just hoping that sooner or later we get somebody that actually performs. The office residential complex, we are thinking of doing that ourselves. And so we're trying to position ourselves financially and putting our resources in there to pay off the podium so we don't have any debt on that. And then it's to try to find the construction financing. That's a trick. Interest rates have doubled. All this good news, right?
Chris, I have a question. What did
Sure.
you say the worth of each parking stall was? Did you say?
Right now, for us to rebuild that parking structure is about $38,000. Now, it's an expensive parking structure. If you're just going slab on grade, you're not doing any excavation, you're not putting it in a hole. I mean, we dug, I think it was a 45-foot hole to get it underground. right? So we wanted to hide it. In fact, we did such a good job. Nobody knows it's there, right?
That was my next question is how is that being used? I know that we've been trying to get people to park there to kind of alleviate some of the ski traffic and
Sure.
different things. How has that been used?
Right now, it's not being used very much at all. And I don't understand why skiers don't park there. Because we're not charging. We have a free parking sign on the road. And I was thinking that as the ski industry heats up this year with a big push on carpooling, that more people would use it. We've offered it to Snowbird for their employees because they don't have any way to get their employees up and haven't heard from them. Could do the same thing with the other ski resorts as well.
I
The bus
may,
stop.
if I may interject, isn't the problem that it's a pretty good schlep carrying your ski equipment to get across into the intersection, the traffic light of Fort Union and
Yeah.
and SR 210, and then get across to where you could get on a bus?
Takes me about 5 minutes. When I ride the bus up big, I park in the parking structure and we put a sidewalk directly to the 7-Eleven. So when people are parking down.
Yeah, but the
70th
bus doesn't
South-
pick you up at the 7-Eleven.
No, but my observation is people park in the neighborhoods, they park on 70th South, and then they walk from there considerably farther to get to the parking lot. One of our comments in the comment period with the EIS was, why don't you put in a bus stop there? Then
It's a very dangerous place because of the high speed along SR 210 Wasatch Boulevard. That's 50 miles an hour. So people are gunning it as they pass the Canyon Center going southbound. It's really not conducive. If it had been designed with a pullout for the buses, then it's a shame that was a missed opportunity, in my opinion, to have transit that would have been viable.
So one of the things that we recommended, and I believe it's actually in the EIS, I have to check and make sure, I know it was in the draft, that they did have a pull out there for the buses going up Little Cottonwood Canyon. It'd be easy to do. It's not a big deal. And we also told them that we would be tickled to cooperate if they ever wanted to put that bridge that was taken away from the concept plan by the city once upon a time. So a pedestrian bridge to the other side, make it really easy to use the garage. But I think that's there. I could be wrong. Might check that.
It said the total built out value is right now looking at maybe 144. What is currently on the tax rolls?
I think it's about 89 million, but don't hold me hostage
I
on
just-
that. I could be, I failed math at the school across the street 3 times.
Not well, you went to.
I don't add well. So you might want to check that.
But I mean, so on that number is significantly higher than what we
It is.
originally
Right. I
proposed.
think it was
years
around
and years ago.
60 or something like
Any estimated time frame with the group in Minnesota before you make a
that. They
decision?
have to make their decision by October 16th. Because I don't have time to wait.
October 6th.
Not October, sorry, January 16th.
That's next
October,
year.
we way too far out there. Forget
You
that.
say you're a very patient man.
No, I am not anymore. So January 16th, I'll give you a call, let you know if they're going to sign or not sign. And if they don't sign, then we move forward with the condominium office residential concept.
Well, Chris, we appreciate you coming before us and keeping us updated. So thank
Thanks for
you.
the invite. Drive safe. It's pretty slick out there.
Merry Christmas. Thank you. Okay, item 4 and subsequently 4.1 on our agenda is an action item to vote on, which is consideration of resolution 2022-02, adopting the project area plan for the town center at 2300 East Fort Union Community Reinvestment Area. Any other questions or comments from the council before we proceed to a vote?
I'll just make the comment, I'm very enthused about what can be for that area along Fort Union Boulevard and walkability and slowed traffic and many of the things that'll enhance the quality of life for our citizens and people who visit our city.
Thank you, Councilmember Burrell. Hearing none other, I will entertain a motion to approve consideration of resolution 2022-02.
I'll make that motion to accept resolution 2022-02.
Second.
A motion to approve from Councilmember Newell and a second from Councilmember Bracken. I'll now call for the vote. Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bracken,
Yes.
Councilmember Newell,
Yes.
Councilmember Burrell,
Yes,
and I will vote yes. Okay, the last item on our agenda is just approval of the minutes, and let me read to you. The minutes of this meeting will be approved through the following process. The agency's secretary promptly will circulate a draft copy of the minutes to the board members, who then will have 3 business days to provide any proposed corrections to the secretary. The secretary will then circulate a revised draft of the minutes to the board members, and the same review process will continue until such time as no correction to the draft minutes are received within the 3 business days review period, whereupon that draft of the minutes will be deemed approved and will become the final minutes of the meeting. Lastly, I'll now accept a motion to adjourn our CDRA meeting.
I move that we adjourn our meeting, Mayor.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Our business meeting will begin at 7.